welcome to another video. So it's been a while since I've done one of these. You know how things go, holidays, having a job, they all tend to get in the way. So it's taken me a while to get around to doing another one of these videos in a while, but I'm finally back to do a video on that game I talked about doing called Finding Bernie. So with that, we're going to quickly recap what I did last time, what I'm going to do this time, and then I'm going to take you through those steps. What we did last time is we did segmentation. So if you remember from the previous video, that was all about basically masking out the user from the background so that they could be seen. Now you can see here's the background, and I made a mention to the background saying I just put in a very quick primitive and applied an image. Now the problem with that image was that it was, when I imported it, it was a 4K image. However, the problem with, I guess it is a problem with Spark is that it scales all images down to 1024. So you can have an image up to 1024 by 1024, but you can't have an image any bigger than 1024. So if you want to do a globe, or if you want to map an image that's bigger than 1024, you're going to need to basically go into Blender and make and map it out using UV maps. So you'll have to make multiple maps, right? So that's what I've gone and done. So if we now look at this version, you can clearly see here on this version that the same image that I've used is the original 4K image, but I divided it up into 8 equal images, and you can see there that the quality of the background of the nebula is considerably better. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take you into Blender, take you through the steps I did there, and then show you how I quickly imported it. The import's not is not really much of a hindrance. So it should be noted, I wasn't sure how I was going to do this because I realized that this was a bit of a problem. So I went looking on Facebook, and within the Facebook community page for SparkAR, which I highly recommend joining if you haven't joined already, there was a guy on there who directed me to someone else on YouTube, which I will link in the description below. He had come across exactly the same issue. So what he did is he rebuilt a sphere for, I think he was doing an outside scene as sort of a type of a portal. And what he did is he did it in Maya. I don't have Maya, I only have Blender. So I spoke to a colleague at work, and he basically said this is how we do it, and so I've learned how to do it from him. So there are steps within the next stage within Blender that I know and I don't know. So some of it's very new to me because I don't really do Blender, so I'm still learning Blender as well. So there may be steps in there that I may describe or may be incorrect, but hopefully the way I describe it is clear enough so you guys can go and do it yourself. Obviously I will share the files at the end, and you can obviously then just duplicate and reuse as you wish. There are several steps. I'm new to Blender. I'm a bit of an amateur, so please, go easy on me if I make any mistakes. I will endeavor to try and go back and correct them. So first of all, obviously here's my object I've already created. What we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new sphere. So first of all, I'm just going to go File, New. I don't want to save this. Right, so I've got my scene. I'm going to select all the items on the scene. I don't need them, so I'll just delete them. Before I add my sphere, I'm going to do one extra thing. So Ondrej told me there are loads of add-ons within Blender that aren't switched on by default. So if you know about add-ons, then you probably already know about this functionality, but I'm just going to go and do it anyway. So under Edit, and then under Preferences, and then within the add-on section here, type in and look for something called Node Wrangler. Now I've already got mine enabled, but you need this for basically when we are in the shading section applying the imagery, because basically it's like a quick key functionality for node elements, so you don't have to sort of know what to put in. You just press some keys and it'll do it for you. So that's enabled. Make sure it's enabled. It'll make your life easier, as I'm told. I am an amateur, but I'm learning. So first of all, we'll then go Add, top left hand corner, and then we'll select a UV sphere. There we go. I'm then going to press S. With it still selected, I'm just going to increase its size. I'll make it up to 2.5, and I'm going to hit Return. Now, of course, on the right hand side, I could have re-edited all of that just in this scale section here, but I just, I've got the keys, I'm learning, I just felt like doing it like that. So next step, really important. When we're going to do this, we want to make sure we do it as precise as possible when selecting the faces that make up the UV map, right? It's very important we do it precisely. So using the key functionalities within the keyboard, within Blender, will allow us to be as precise as we need to be. So first of all, I'm just going to have the sphere selected. I'm in object editing mode on the left hand side. I'm just going to go down to the materials thing on the right hand side, and I'm just going to add a material now to this. I'm just going to call it matte. Sorry if I turn away from the microphone. I'll endeavor to keep looking at the microphone. And then I'm going to just assign a color. Why? Well, I'm doing this so then we can see if I'm missing any points or any spaces when I'm making up UV maps. What we don't want to do is miss anything. Okay, that will come through in a moment. You'll see that when we start doing it. So next step is on the left hand side, top left, I'm going to change the object mode to edit. So I'm going to change it to edit mode. Now you can see everything gets highlighted. You can get the editing tools down the left hand side. And then just going to deselect, and then I'm going to press 1 on the number pad keyboard. 1 on the number pad key. Right, so that takes us into this flat view. Now this will mean I'll be able to highlight all my my faces precisely without having to try and sort of just shift and click. I want to do all of them as one group, but if I do it this way, it means I can do it precisely. I'm going to zoom in. So I'm just going to hold, I'm holding Command on the keyboard, and I'm just scrolling with the mouse. I'm then going to hold Shift. If I hold Shift, then it'll keep me fixed with my mouse. So if I had tried to scroll, it would have tried to go into a full rotation of the object. I don't want to do that from a camera perspective. I just wanted to keep it a nice flat. You can do that. It's the hand tool basically I'm getting at. Yeah, you can do it this way, or if you hold Shift, you can do it that way. So next step, on the left hand side, with next to the right of edit mode, I'm going to select the faces selector. Yeah, and then next thing we're going to do is I now want to select the top left sort of quarter of my sphere. Reason why? Well, we want to, when we're selecting all our images, well, when we're making our UV map, we want to make sure we do it precisely. And by that I mean, when I did the, so I'll just get to the desktop for you and just show you. So when I cut up the images the first time, you can see here they're divided up into 8 images. So we're now basically going to go through from 1 to 4 across the top here. Okay, so we're going to do the upper part of the sphere. So I'm going to do number 1, which is this image here. So I've already exported these as images, so they've all been cut out. So it's really important we sort of go around the sphere the right way. What we don't want to do is go around the sphere the wrong way. So I don't want to. I want to have 1, 2, 3, 4 going in the same sort of flow. I don't want to make a mistake of having 1, then 3, then 4, or 2. I want to make sure it's one after the other. So anyway, yeah, let's go back to Blender. So again, top left, I've got my selector tool up, and I'm just going to drag, and I'm going to select all the way to the middle, not over the line, and that means I should get all the polys I want. Sorry, faces. So then on the right hand side, I'm going to hit the little plus icon within the inspector. This is over here, far right hand side where my mouse is wobbling right now. I'm going to hit plus, then I'm going to hit new, and then I'm going to change that to matte_01. Then I'm going to change the base color. Right, I'm just going to tap on that white space because it starts as white, and I'm going to drag or tap the little icon to make it red. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Done. And then next thing, really important, hit assign. Right, that is really, really important. You must hit assign, because then if I go into a different render view, you can now see my my points, my faces are red, so I know that's number 1. I've called it 1, but I know that's number 1. So in fact, you know what? I'll stay in this render view so you can see it in more detail. So we're now going to make map 2. So the you don't have to call them maps. You could call them well, matte. You could call it map 1 and 2, or you could call it UV map. It's up to you. Anyway, I'm waffling. I apologize. Right. So we're going to do the top right now. So again, I'm just going to drag from the top right. I'm still in surface selection, and I'm still in the edit mode. So selected, done. On the right hand side under the inspector, I'm going to hit the plus icon again, as we did for mat 1. Hit that. I'm going to hit new just below, and then I'm going to change the name to mat_002. Oh, might help if I select the whole thing. Hang on. mat_02. Right, and then I'm going to hit return. I'm going to change the color. I'll change it to yellow. No, let's change it. Yeah, let's change it to yellow. And then I'm going to hit assign. There we go. Right. So we've now got a red. So we've now got one. We've now got the base color for the whole sphere, which is the pink. We've then got our first UV map, which is 1. We've then got our second, which is 2. And then I'm now going to rotate round the sphere to where I want to do 3 and 4. Now, with the number pad key, I'm going to select, well, I'm going to tap the number 9. Now, did you see that? It rotated round the right direction, okay? I don't want to rotate the other way round, because then if I put 3 next to 1, that's not in the correct order, okay? So it's really important. So I'll hit 1 again to take me back. You can see there. I'm going to hit 9, and that takes me round. Okay, so again, we're now going to still in the edit mode, still within the layout tab, and with surfaces selected as the selection option. I'm going to drag a bounding box, whatever you want to call it, over the spheres, over the spaces I want to basically make mat 3. Then on the right hand side under the inspector, the plus icon. Wait for a moment. I'm going to hit that, and then I'm going to hit new, and then I'm going to type in mat_03. Hit return. I'm then going to change the base color to green. Hit return, and then I'm going to hit assign. It's now green. And now we're going to do the 4th mat. So again, just selecting from the top right hand side all the way down to the middle, not going over the line because I don't want any other faces outside of this space. See, I did it there, didn't want that. So don't panic, just tap off, try again. Selecting all the ones you need, let go. Then right hand side, hit the plus icon, then hit new. Then type in the name, mat_04. Hit return, change the color. I'll make it a blue, hit assign. Done. So there we go. Now if I tap on the number pad key between 1 and 9, we can see that it's in the right order. Okay, next step. We need to assign images, but before we assign images, we need to sort out our UV maps. Now, the reason we're going to do this next is that when I built it the first time, I did this step, went straight into the shader, which I'll show you quickly now. I went straight into the shader, and then with, and I pressed number 1 on the number pad key, and then under the material section, right hand side, it's like the little globe, and I'll just have number 1 selected. You can see here the material under the node section down here, I've got number 1 selected. When I assigned the image the very first time I did it, it looked okay. It just looked a bit squished. And the reason it looked a bit squished is under the UV edit tab. Now I'm going over to the UV edit tab, right? And then on the right hand side within the layout area, I'm just going to change the render view to a wireframe. And then in the material section, the little globe right hand side, I'm going to have mat 1 selected, and then I'm going to hit select, which is in the middle between assign and deselect. Right? Then it doesn't look too bad here within this space. This actually looks okay, right? Within the edit mode here, this looks fine. It's the UV map area where the problem is, and we'll go over to that now. So I'm just going to zoom in. I'm holding Command and scrolling with my mouse, so you can see here that the UV map that's been created is actually constrained within a very small area of my image. So if I loaded my image in now, which I'll show you in fact, sorry, I'm going to go back to shader. So with the principal BSDF selected, very important, have it selected, I'm going to press Control T. Now this is where that node wrangler thing comes in handy. Right, there we go. So it's now connected it. So I'll now just assign the image. So I hit open, desktop, Finding Bernie, images, do one. There we go. Can you see that? So you see how the image looks a bit distorted? Well, that's because the UV map is currently in a very small space of the image, and I'll show you. So going back to UV edit, and obviously I'm very zoomed in here, so I'll just zoom out. Ooh. There you go. So you can see there, our UV map, although area I want mapped, is too small. It needs to be the whole space. So what do we do to resolve that? Well, thanks to Ondrej, he pointed out a few things I needed to do at this step because I didn't know what I was doing again because amateur. So first thing to do under UV, this little selector here, make sure you tap on or select constrain image to boundaries. So that means that whenever we scale anything or move anything around, it won't move with it outside of that space. So if I select everything and then try and move it, you see it's not, I can't move it outside of that space, which is really handy for us, right? Okay, so the next step is we need to make it the same size as the bounding box, right? So you could hit S and scale, but it's not going to scale in the right way, right? It's constrained. So what you need to do is you need to scale it, but you need to scale it so it scales from the I can't remember what this is called, so the cursor. So wherever you assign the cursor, you need to scale from that. That is your guide almost. So up here in the middle, just underneath the UV edit, there's a little drop down and it's got 4 options in it, and you need to assign it, set it to 2D cursor. And then I'm just going to move, I'm just going to move the object down, or the selected map. I'm then going to press S. Now in theory, if I scale it, it'll only scale up as far as I want. It may not scale as far as I need it to be. So there you go. So you just press S and keep scaling, keep scaling, keep scaling. Done. Right, so now I'm now going to go back to the shader tab. And now you can see there instantly it's been resolved. You can see the quality of that is really improved. Now, obviously, if we had more polys, you'd have an even better looking one just from the smoothness, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm an amateur, I'm learning as I go, but this is enough for what I need. So you can now see when we do map 2, we're going to have the same problem. So if I select map 2, on the right hand side, I'm going to press Control T while I've got the principled BSDF selected. I'm going to press Control T. It creates that, I don't know, I'm still learning, but it creates that mapping of the imagery to it. And then going to hit open. Going to go and find my imagery under Bernie, images 2. Again, you can see the distortion there, right? And that's not going to be great, obviously, if we don't sort out the UV map. So I'll go now back to UV edit. Now, I've still got the first map actually selected, even though in the right hand side in the inspector it says map 2. I'm not actually on map 2, I'm actually on map 1. So what you do is, with map 1 selected, I'm going to hit deselect. There you are, so I've now deselected it. I'm then going to select map 2 in the drop down, and then I'm going to hit select. See, it's now moved around. You can see. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to change it to the image I want, but it's already been changed for me, so it's already signed to image 2. So we now need our UV map to be the correct size. Okay, so we're just going to sort that out. So hopefully I do this correct. Sorry again if I get it wrong, guys. I'm still learning as I say. All right, so I just hit the arrow functionality. I think, what's it called? Move. So under move, I just moved the objects with it selected. I'm then going to press S. So now it will scale from the cursor. And there you go. Look, see, that's really simple. All I had to do was move the UV map down to where the cursor was already assigned. And then I press S. And that allowed me to scale it up and scale it across. And then I just hit return. And that should have resolved our issue. So I will go back over to shading. And you can see there now, that it actually blends across. So we haven't lost any of that quality that we were trying to achieve, and it's the exact size it needs to be. So I'm now going to do that for 3 and 4. I'll just speed that up. Right, and there you go, guys. That's how easy it is to do. Well, I say easy. I've had to learn how to do it myself, but that's how relatively easy it is to assign and carry on. Now, I guess if you wanted to then do the next level, I didn't say necessarily I was going to do it, but I'll just show you the next step. We'll do it together quickly. So I'm going to press 1, so I take it back round to the beginning. So this is where I want to have, this will be image 5, right? Remember, so when we looked at that cutoff, we had 1 to 4 across the top, then it's 5 to 8 across the bottom. So I'm going to start by selecting, I'll go into the layout mode, and yeah, I'll just move it up. Make sure I'm on 1, yep. So I'm going to go into edit mode, very important, make sure you're always in edit mode, and then I'm going to make sure I've got the faces option selected, and then I'm just going to drag from the left to the right, aiming for the middle, and then down, making sure I select as many of the faces as possible. Then, with those selected, I'm going to go to the right hand side, tap plus, hit new, and I'm going to type in mat underscore 05. Yeah. Then I'm going to assign a color. So I guess I'll make this a funny blue, and I'm going to hit assign. There you go. So now I've done that. I'm then going to go into the edit, the UV edit section with number 5 still selected. So I suppose it's very important if you did it one by one. So instead of maybe doing all of the top section, best thing to do is do layout, UV edit, and then maybe do the image, and then go back to the beginning and start from left to right. So maybe that's a good way of doing it. Anyway, I digress. So I'm in the UV edit mode. I'm just going to highlight the UV map that I've created. I'm going to press S to scale it because I don't need to move it. I just need to scale it up. It's still using all the assigned controls that I've already done. So I've already got the UV constraint, and it knows to do it from the 2D cursor. So that section's really easy. So there you go. That's how easy it is. Well, I say easy, but that's how you should go about making your sphere itself. So how do we import that into SparkAR? Well, we'll go and do that next. So before I rush off to Spark, there's one step I forgot to mention within the shader tool, within the shading tab section. So when you've assigned the image within the node section, one thing you must do is change this from the drop down that says linear to closest. So this will mean that there are no join marks visible within your sphere when you're in SparkAR, because what you don't want to see is a join mark between the UV maps, because that will diminish the experience. So make sure you go back through those shaders within the node section of each of your mats and just change that linear to closest, so you don't have any join marks appearing within SparkAR. Right, so we're now back in Spark. We're now going to import our 3D sphere with its new assigned materials. So just to recap, you can see here is the old image. It's really poor quality. We're hopefully now going to make a huge leap on that. Right, so what do? Very simple. Left hand side, within the scene layout, go and select add object, then with 3D object selected, hit insert, find your object. In this case, there it is. I've already exported it, and I did it as a GLB from Blender. Really simple to do, literally file export GLB. Now I haven't basically determined which is better versus an FBX. If you're doing an animation, that would probably make sense to do an FBX. However, GLBs, for some, I think they do support animation. So FBX versus GLBs, not necessarily sure which is the best option for importing with yet, but again, amateur will learn that as we go along. So anyway, I've set it as a GLB. So hit open. Now it'll take a moment to load. Right, so it's now loaded in. It's obviously just loaded it directly into the camera, so I need to have it outside of the camera space, assigned to the user's phone. So I'm just going to sort of drag it right down underneath the old one. So I've still got the old sphere in there. I want to keep the old one there for a moment so you can just see the quality issues. So I'm just going to switch off the old one. So visibility on the inspector on the right hand side. I'm just going to tap the little tick and turn that off. I'm just going to scale up the new one. I'm just going to scale it up to 1.3. 1.3, 1.3. Right. So now you can, if I turn the other one on, you can see that they're sort of, you can see the quality there. In fact, let me just change the orbit and find a bit of nebula. There you are, there's a bit of nebula. Now if I tap on the switch on the old one, you can instantly see, yeah, just like the quality is just, it's such a leap. So yeah, I mean, we can safely say that the new 360 sphere with 8 images assigned is a huge leap forward. So what I'll do now is I will just select the old one. I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to hit save. Now, one thing to keep in mind, obviously you will have to publish this at some point. So because when I did the export, all the images are actually within the original imported file. However, obviously they've been added and assigned within SparkAR, and there are textures here, right? So each one will have different compressions on them. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Blender won't do any compressions. So you either need to compress before you import your images into Blender, or do them at super high res quality, like a couple of meg each, and then try and do all the compressions within SparkAR. I do tend to find that SparkAR is a bit slow. It's not as fast, and that kind of rendering may impede its processing. So what I would try and do is, or suggest doing, is trying to get your compressions done before you bring them into SparkAR. Right, so that's it. We have covered off all the elements I wanted to cover off. The next step of the game will obviously be about actually adding in Bernie. So we'll add in Bernie and make him tappable. So that'll be the next tutorial. And then hopefully after that, we'll look at adding in some kind of scoring system, so we can add points, and then maybe even a soundtrack and some extra sounds. So we've got loads more to do, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, because I've really enjoyed making it. Also, I just want to say, as of this video, I was on 270 subscribers. So I'm definitely over the halfway mark now for that aim of 500 subscribers by the end of 2021. So do tap that like button, and also if you haven't subscribed already, please do. You know, by you subscribing will help with the magical algorithm of the YouTube mystics. So please do subscribe and like the video, and also share it. You know, the more people share the video, the more people will follow me and encourage me and guide me. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.